What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a collaboration album between Lil Flip and Gudda Gudda of Young Money. Basically, this project is called Certified, and it came out in the spring of 2009. The thing about this particular product is this is really like Gudda Gudda's only true album that was packaged in like a CD type format. I'd have to say he was mostly kind of a mixtape type rapper, but this is more of a Lil Flip project that I'd have to say in particular. But it's a good concept because this is definitely like a classic album here that's very overlooked and just very kind of low key kind of talked about here. So I definitely feel like the concept about this particular one, this is kind of something that came out. Gudda Gudda actually managed to put out an album in stores before Drake did and folks like that, before Young Money completely blew up with like the We Are Young Money album, some of those later albums like Thank Me Later, Pink Friday, some of those type ones. But I kind of look after it. It's just a good concept here because the chemistry between Lil Flip and Gudda Gudda is pretty strong. I'd have to say there's a ton of good Southern Fried type bops on here. There is some Southern mixtape type fare that kind of goes along with some of that Don Cannon type sound. Wasn't really aware that Lil Flip was kind of a part of that somewhat, but it's a good enough concept to kind of get here. I mean, some of this feels like it's 2000s type fare from like the 2006, 2008 type days when Southern hip hop and Houston hip hop was kind of more popular. Some of it also feels like some of the Young Money type bops on here, like If You Trap and some of those type ones, and I Love Cali, some of those type of appeals. It's a pretty good type of fare. On like the Spotify edition, there's some bonus type songs on here. On this particular album, there's only really like 10 songs on here. Wikipedia says that there's 14 songs in this particular product, and at least 4 of them are kind of skits or intros and pitches like that. I'd have to say Number One, Flyboy, Roll It, Ether, and The Best are all songs that are not necessarily songs, they're just kind of more interludes and stuff like that. So it narrowed down to 10 songs. And then on the Spotify Deluxe, there's 2 extra songs on here, which would basically be Speaking My Language and Where Are You From, which I think were also on the Lil Flip also had a song that he did with Young Noble from the Outlaws, Tupac's group, the Outlaws. That's a pretty good pitch. I'm eventually going to have to get to that one. But that was an album that came out in 2008, and Gudda Gudda was on that particular one a couple of times. That's the concept there. This would, I'd say, 2 good collaboration type projects going to get, but this one's definitely a classic that's going to get a pretty rave score. I'd say, not really sure the single off this particular product, but I would have to say that out of these 12 songs on here, if you count the deluxe edition with the extra songs, it's really only one song I don't recommend in some fashion. So that lone song I don't recommend would just be G Tales, just to talk about that one in particular. It's just kind of a mellow type one, just in particular, just something of UGK type fare and pitches like that. I'd have to say, just kind of a concept of one. It's kind of a ride out type song in a more lazy type sense. It's kind of some relative evening type fare just for like maybe end of work shift pitches like that, or just appreciating vehicle bound type stuff. But I don't know, just the affability behind that one was just not quite as composed like the normal type fare. Most of these have a little bit more electricity. There are some ones on here, there are some great cruise type ones. Smoke and Ride just did it better. I feel like I Love Cali just did it better. Down South Legends just did it better. Some of those type ones, this kind of concept. There are some similar type ones to G Tales in terms of the production type fare. Lil Flip definitely appreciates some of those type tunes like UGK, Bun B, Pimp C, Paul Wall, some of those type folks that have some of those cruise out type tunes, just smoking and like sipping syrup, smoking some swish or some of those type fares. But G Tales was just not a good example of that. Is full bound, I'd have to say. But yeah, this album definitely gets a 10 out of 10. This is unexpected. You know, it's been said. I've seen like the worst rappers of all time type list. There's like, I don't know if it was Billboard. There was someone that did like a top 50 worst rappers, and Gudda Gudda was on there. There were folks like Lil Pump on there, Soulja Boy on there, some of those type folks. Like, I want to say Iggy Azalea was on there. Just folks like that, just in particular, just a good list of type ones. But Gudda Gudda was one of the rappers on there. But this is a pretty full blown type. I know it's relative to say classic just because the concept that it may be debatable amongst like critics and just like standard kind of public opinion. I'd have to say, but I do feel that like I do definitely feel like this album has a lot of charm and overall appeal. It just is very affable and just has a lot of electricity towards it. Just pretty good balance about this particular project. It kind of flips like Southern Fried type music along with like that Houston, Texas type swirl, just like smoking swishers and riding out Cadillacs and Impalas and pitches like that as far as some of those type things would kind of go. And this would kind of have to say. So once again, I'm not sure the single on here, but I'll just go ahead and talk about some of these. Lil Flip usually freestyles his verses. I'm not sure if he wrote lyrics on this particular one, but Gudda Gudda is pretty good at freestyling. At least he has decent compatibility with it, I'd have to say, despite the fact that people feel like he's not that good. He at least has the ability to kind of get on these songs and do his thing as far as that particular kind of goes. Lil Flip's probably the better lyricist, but I still look after it as just some good concepts. I'd say they're probably about balance. It's kind of the concept. They both have some good affable type ones. They're not really, I mean, even if the lyrics are not full blown like Lil Wayne or Nas type territory, I still would have to say some good aspects to kind of get, especially for Southern Fried type rappers when they tend to get a lot of flack. So just what I'd say. So I'm just going to go in on some of these. Real nice one on here would be She's So Fly. Definitely appreciated this one. This is a Lil Flip This is a Lil Flip only solo song, I'd have to say. Too bad that Gudda Gudda wasn't on this one, but it's still a nice one. It's like a dazzling kind of ladies tune, I would definitely feel like. This is like a good, this song has some good emphatic vibes, I would definitely feel like. This is like a rosy kind of day activity, I would have to say. It's pretty hooky on top of that. This is a snazzy hit, I would definitely have to suppose, and it's pretty good standout. So this is probably one of the best songs on the particular album. It's real nice ambient type vibes. It's real good for date afternoon, date nights, and pitches like that. Just a dazzling type one to kind of get here. Just is your girl looking spiffy, just appreciating your lady as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with it. It's real nice, sparkling type one to kind of have. Real good aspect. This nice one. Something that reminds me of something that Paul Wall or this reminds me of something that Paul Wall or Baby Bash would do. Some of those type folks. Webby, some of those type folks would kind of have. Probably could have been a single. Smoke and Ride's obviously a pretty nice one. This is obviously like a UGK type tune. Just within that aspect. This Lil Flip doing that Houston, Texas type fare as far as that kind of goes. It's like a lazy kind of summery UGK like day commute of a song, I'd say. Some good kind of 2 p.m., 3 p.m. type weather. It doesn't have to be doesn't have to be evening type fare, but just picking up Popeyes like the summertime to some pitches like that. This heat wave type music. This is some decent cruise out kind of. This is definitely some decent cruise out type music, I'd have to say. And it's like a super smoke up and get stuck type vibes that this particular album kind of has, and it's just a good vibe out type music. Definitely something just to be able to have, get some smokage in your system, some pitches like that. Just kind of the concept of just appreciating the localized type stuff. This is a more local type tune, but I definitely appreciate the concept of just getting some of these. Gudda Gudda is pretty good on here. This is just the sort of concept. It really makes me wonder what a Gudda Gudda album would have been like on his solo tip. As far really makes me wonder what a Gudda Gudda solo album would have been like as far as that particular fare kind of goes. Originally, he was going to put out an album called Guddaville. The album was supposed to come out in 2010 and then 2011. Just never happened, but it would have been interesting. So I think it probably would have been horrorcore, and then it probably would have been pitches like this with some like mixtape joints in there. It was just a good concept to get this in particular. This is just some good summary, just some good summary lays of just slog kind of smokage type feelings. Me and You Baby's another nice one, pretty similar to like She's So Fly. It's a good follow up to She's So Fly. I would definitely feel like this like a 2000s kind of Don Cannon mixtape type feel about this particular one. This is just like some plush daytimes, I would have to say, with Chicas. I would definitely have to suppose. A little bit not quite as sparkling and dazzling as the beat as like She's So Fly. It was definitely a pretty good follow up of one. Just a lot more of like an easygoing kind of breezy type one. Just a good affable type one that's almost like an R&B type tune. This works pretty well for that relative pitch. I'd say it's a pretty nice one. If You Trapping's a real highlighted one. Definitely appreciate this particular bop. Reminds me of something Young Money would do. This is a very Young Money S type club hitter. I would definitely have to feel like this is like a vanilla night outing pizzazz of a song. I would definitely have to suppose, and this is just a stock album bop. I would definitely feel like. So it's a little bit uncommon to have Lil Flip on this particular type tune. This is the sort of stuff that like If You Trapping's the sort of stuff that Gudda Gudda was kind of doing oftenly in like the early 2010s pitches like that. He had a ton of songs like this, especially in like the production type fare, but Lil Flip does a pretty good job with his verse on here. I liked his verse at the beginning of this particular song. It's pretty good. It's an affable type one. Makes fun of folks that work at Blockbuster, some of those type pitches. Just kind of a good concept. Just I feel like the thing about Lil Flip is he's lyrical, but he doesn't get too lyrical as far as that pitch can goes. He freestyles some of these, but he's not. I don't want to say that. I don't feel like Lil Flip is like Kendrick and Nas type territory, but he's not like more limp type lyricist. I wouldn't say he's like Shoddy Low. Not to say anything wrong with Shoddy Low, but he's not like Shoddy Low or just like more kind of just less lyrical type folks just within that aspect. He actually throws together lyrics and he's pretty good freestyle as far as that pitch can go. So it's some good stuff to kind of get some of these on here when talking about Lil Flip just in terms of this album. This is a good example of like a nightclub type pop where there's some lyricism on there. Speaking my language is in our highlight type one. This one's pretty similar to If You Trappin', I would have to say. Now, this is one that was on like the Young Noble album that Lil Flip dropped with him in 2008. It's like a dripping kind of feeling tipsy type. It's like a dripping kind of feeling tipsy stellar dance bounce of a song that I'd say in particular. It's like a good woozy night out, and I would definitely feel like it has an Outlaws cameo on here. So it's a pretty good concept. It's Young Noble. Originally, I thought that the Outlaws were on this song, but I looked up the lyrics to this. It's just the fact that this is just Lil Flip and Young Noble. So it's not really the rest of the Outlaws, but still good enough pitch to kind of get. This one's pretty similar, like I was saying, to If You Travel, just a good concept, kind of get some of that night bounce, just the particular type feeling, just having some drink or some good feeling in your system as far as that particular kind of goes. There are some soulful ones on here. If you do like songs like Smoke and Ride, there's some other ones like Down South Legends that do a pretty good job of that. This is definitely more Don Cannon type stuff, I'd have to say, more mixtape type fare. It's like a composed kind of southern mixtape fare of a song I would definitely have to suppose. This is like some soulful kind of cruise out and get lifted type tunes. I would definitely feel like another good one to kind of just appreciate the ambience and just pitch just like that, just the summer weather in like a more lazy type sense, syrup sipping, some of those type things. And this is just a good errands wrap up of the song, I'd have to say. It's just interesting about this in particular because it's just the Don Cannon type stuff that Lil Wayne does with like Dedication and Jeezy does with like Trap or Die, some of those type ones. Just kind of an album, just kind of an album amalgamated type concept for just like a regular type format that just keeps some of that street and rugged mixtape type fare. It's just good concept. I Keep It Street All Day is another nice one. This is a more rugged type one. This is definitely some more edginess. I do think this album needed more cuts like that. It's a pretty good concept. It's like a rattling kind of night outing flash of a song I would definitely feel like. There's like some good street soldier type music I would definitely have to suppose. It's one that's a little bit more jarring, it has it's a good smoke a few kind of bravado type one. So it's a little bit more stood up and just a little bit more in your face type one to kind of get. I do feel like probably could have been a pretty good buzz single to have kind of had this is sort of stuff that Lil Wayne would kind of do off of like I'm Not a Human Being, some of those type ones, or kind of like a song like Gonorrhea, some of those type ones that Lil Wayne would do, some of that mixtape type fare. I feel like this is definitely a pretty mixtape centric type album, just in particular. I feel like Gudda Gudda probably had something to do with that, just in particular as to how some of these. There's some ones like Down South Legends, If You Trappin', I Keep It Street All Day, and like I Love Cali, some of these type ones in particular just have some of that nightclub kind of mixtape edginess that just kind of goes along with some of those really get some smoke in your system. Probably need a few beer type songs on here. It's just too bad there's not like some drink type songs, but I definitely feel like some smoking like nightclub and just kind of have some good kind of just glaring, kind of hazed out as fuck type tunes. It's some good concepts for that. But a real good feel good song on here. This is probably one of the most breezy songs on this particular album. Would be Certified, the title track. Pretty nice one to kind of get, but it's almost kind of an almost song for May. I'll explain. This is kind of like a feel good kind of summer breeze, kind of out in the wind type tune. I would definitely have to feel like this is an affable kind of ride out type music. I would definitely have to say, but this works better on like great days. This is a concept. This is like more kind of balmy and not necessarily optimistic, but just kind of feel good to the point where if you're not in like a really exuberant type mood or something like that, I mean, I feel like it can probably charm you enough to put you in like a better mood. But just the concept, if you kind of had like a more jarring or rattle type day, it doesn't work as full blown. I'd suppose, but it's just kind of a concept. It's just a nice one to kind of have for this. Just got paid today, some pitches like that. Just got like some good greens and pitches like that. Going to smoke real good. Get like some good pizza and stuff like that. Get some good food. Ladies gonna call up some ladies and pitches like that. I'd have to say it's just a good enough concept. But just it's here and there, just with like the affability, just between whether or not you're matching like the energy of the song. But still one I recommend. I Love Cali is a pretty nice balance of one. It's like a breezy kind of summer outing fare. I would definitely have to say it's like a nice emphasized day. I would definitely feel like this is like a smoke a few and feel good, kind of enjoy the weather type tune. I Love Cali reminds me of something that Tyga or The Game would do. Some of those type folks. This really feels like more of West Coast type fare. I mean, obviously with it being called I Love Cali, it was just kind of the concept. Just has some of that relative bounce. Very Dr. Dre, Tyga, YGS, just in particular as far as particular kind of goes. It's an interesting type one, good type fare to kind of get for just smoking and cruising out in like the warm weather as far as a particular kind of goes. Just a good parent, just a little bit more energized type one compared to smoking ride, but there's just some good vehicle centric type ones on here that just work great for vehicle bound, just outings with like smoke sessions and getting food and some pitches like that. It's good on the go type living. And then Boss's Make It Rain is a pretty nice one. It's a definite bop on here. It's like a gleaming kind of nightclub ambience, I would have to say in particular. It's like a basic kind of flirty kickback I would have to feel. It's just like a feel good kind of hooky outing bop, I would definitely have to say. So this is pretty mellow type one. Definite good lap dance type song. I suppose in particular some strip club type music just to be able to get just within that aspect. It's a nightclub type song that's really not as much in your face and it's ferocious. It's not as much of like a twerk song as much as it's like a slow dance kind of lap dance type song, I'd have to say. Pretty hooky. There's some ones that are hooky on here, like She's So Fly, Bosses Make It Rain, some of those type ones. Definitely some good bops just to kind of get on here. This really has that particular appeal. It's really like the affability behind it. So there's some good bounce. So this is a pretty social album, I would have to say. So once again, the score is going to get a 10 out of 10. Trying to think if there's any other songs I haven't talked about. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about Where Are You From. So this is another highlighted type one. It's like a glaring kind of outdoor evening bounce of a song I'd have to say in particular. It's like some good parking lot and residential jazz. I would definitely have to feel like this is the fraternize and smoke up type tune. Where Are You From has a little bit more Texas type bounce. I would have to say reminds me of something that Lil Kiki or Pimp C, some of those type folks would do, or even Paul Wall, some of those particular type folks. It's a real kind of jarring type one, a little bit of jive towards it. It's kind of like a minor jig type song. Just appreciate the concept of that particular one. This one is a bonus track on here, but it was more over on like the Young Noble collaboration album with Lil Flip as far as that particular kind of goes. So it may not, I'm not sure if you purchased this album on CD, if it would be on the deluxe edition. I don't know if you buy this on CD that you get the two extra songs, Where Are You From and Speaking My Language, but they are on the Young Noble collaboration album, so I would just get it there. But it's just kind of concept that some of the songs from this particular album bleed on the Young Noble album. Some of the songs from the Young Noble album bleed on this particular one. It's just kind of the concept. It's just a good thing. So, but yeah, I basically give this album 10 out of 10, me recommending 11 out of 12 songs on here. In terms of social score, I'm going to go ahead and give the social score like a 9. And I'm going to give the social score like a 9.75 out of 10. I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 because it didn't have a single. I definitely feel like this probably should have had some promotion or music videos on it, just in pitches like that. Lil Flip started to get more low key around this time. I mean, his last hit album in terms of like commercial fanfare was definitely like "I Need Mine" from 2007, which is a pretty great album. That's a great double album. Lil Flip has a series of double albums that he put out, which is a pretty good pitch. He was able to do that, and they're definitely pretty entertaining. Like "I Need Mine," the double album version's kind of getting tougher to find, so it's a good enough concept, but definitely needs some promotion pitches like that. I just think like I mean, it definitely had the singles on here. I feel like "She's So Fly," "Smoke." I feel like songs like "She's So Fly," "Bosses Make It Rain," some of those type one, maybe even "Down South Legends" could have been like a promo or a buzz single. Some of those type ones. "I Keep It Street All Day" could have been one, and "If You Travel," some of those type ones could have been like buzz or promo type singles. That I'd say it's a good enough concept. There's definitely some good night outing. Has like the summery kind of lazy day type fare, just syrup sipping, smokage, get some beers in your system. Some of those type pitches, and has some night type flair on here, like "Bosses Make It Rain," and "If You Trappin'," "Speaking My Language," some of those type ones. Just kind of in between, and just like some day fare, some night fare, just pitches like that. I just would say doesn't really have like a makeshift type song in terms of that relative conduct. I mean, it has like some cruise out type songs if you are vehicle centric pitches like that. Was just kind of in terms of like a worship hit. It's not like that's a complaint that it doesn't have. It was just the aspect of just day fare, night fare. You just kind of get it figured out as you will to how the concept of how you want to listen to it. Some good stuff to kind of throw in like playlists and mixed CDs as far as that and mixed CDs as far as that kind of goes. But in terms of future, like Lil Flip's been putting out projects. Gudda Gudda, not as much. He dropped. There's a few more mixtapes by him I want to get to, so I'm definitely going to mess with that. But I'd say Lil Flip has plenty more projects. I do want to get to some of these, just kind of the concept. I may just tackle like that Young Noble album, some pitches like that. I do want to review Young. I do want to review Lil Flip's 2002 album that has "The Way We Ball" on there. That's pretty. I do want to review Lil Flip's 2002 album that has "The Way We Ball" on there. That's pretty good pitch to kind of get that one. We'll definitely get to some more of these, but this is a classic here in my opinion. Definitely feel like it's pretty Southern fried, just full of affable bounce, full of plenty of good lazy kind of smoke view. It's definitely a pretty smoke centric project. Definitely some good vehicle bound type music for just day life and errand running pitches like that, and just day commerce. And then some night bops on here just for smoke sessions. Good relative makeshift type air pitches like that. Just a good affable, just kind of lays, but then still somewhat composed and bustling kind of life as far as that particular kind of goes. So some good affability, and it's just, in my opinion, like a pretty rave and glitzy kind of underappreciated classic.